2 years ago, a carton of eggs cost you $3. Today, it's costing you $7. Nobody sat down and decided to punish you. No evil corporation flipped a switch. What actually happened is older than money itself, older than banks, older than your grandparents' grandparents. It's a force so simple that a 7-year-old lemonade stand owner understands it instinctively, yet so powerful that it has toppled governments and started wars. Today, we're going to break it down so completely that you'll never look at a price tag the same way again. And by the end, you'll understand exactly why your paycheck feels smaller even when your salary went up.
Let's start with Sam. Sam is 11, lives in a quiet suburb outside Manchester, and every Saturday she sets up a lemonade stand outside her house. On a normal Saturday, she sells lemonade for $1 a cup, and she sells about 20 cups. Simple business. But one Saturday, the temperature hits 95 degrees. Suddenly, everyone on the street wants lemonade. She sells out of 40 cups in an hour, and people are still knocking. She raises the price to $1.50. People still buy it. That's it. That's the entire concept economists spend years studying, happening on a sidewalk with a folding table and a pitcher of Kool-Aid. What Sam just lived through is called demand and supply, and understanding it is the single most useful piece of financial literacy nobody ever taught you in school.
Demand isn't just wanting something. Wanting a private jet doesn't count as demand if you can't actually buy one. Demand is the combination of desire and the ability to pay. Economists call this effective demand, and it's the difference between dreaming about a Tesla and actually being able to walk into a dealership with financing approved. When more people are able and willing to buy something at a given price, demand goes up. When fewer people want it or can afford it, demand goes down. That's the entire skeleton of the idea. Everything else we're about to cover is just what makes that skeleton move. But here's where it gets interesting, because demand doesn't just randomly go up or down. There are 5 specific forces pulling on it every single day. And once you see them, you'll start noticing them everywhere, from your grocery bill to your rent to the price of the phone in your pocket. The first factor is price itself, and this one seems almost too obvious to mention, except most people misunderstand it. As the price of something rises, less of it typically gets bought, and as the price falls, more of it gets bought. This is called the law of demand, and it's why airlines drop ticket prices at 3 a.m. for last-minute seats. They know that at a lower price, more people who were sitting on the fence suddenly say yes. The second factor is income. When people earn more, they don't just save it. They spend more on things they were previously holding back on, from dining out to upgrading their car. This is exactly what happened across the US and UK during the wage growth period of 2023 and 2024, when real incomes finally outpaced inflation for the first time in years, and demand for mid-range restaurants and travel bookings spiked noticeably. The third factor is the price of related goods, which splits into 2 types. Substitutes are goods that replace each other. If the price of Pepsi rises sharply, some people simply switch to Coke, so demand for Coke rises. Complements are goods used together. If the price of coffee beans spikes, demand for coffee creamer can actually drop because fewer people are brewing coffee at home in the first place. The fourth factor is taste and preference, and this is the one advertising exists entirely to manipulate. When athleisure became culturally dominant in the mid-2010s, demand for formal office wear collapsed almost overnight, not because suits got more expensive, but because what people wanted changed. The fifth factor is expectation. If people believe prices will rise next month, they buy now, which is exactly what happened during the toilet paper panic buying of 2020. It wasn't that anyone needed more toilet paper. It was that everyone expected shortages, so the fear itself created the shortage. Now, here's the twist most beginner finance content completely skips. Demand is only half the picture. The other half is just as emotional, just as human, and it's the reason Sam's lemonade stand couldn't just sell unlimited cups even on the hottest day of the year.
Supply is how much of something producers are willing and able to sell at a given price. Sam only had so much lemonade mix, so many cups, and only 2 hands. Even with unlimited customers, her supply had a ceiling. Multiply that logic by an entire economy, and you start to understand why oil prices, chip shortages, and even Taylor Swift concert tickets behave the way they do. Supply isn't infinite, and the moment it collides with demand, price gets decided. The first factor is production cost. When the raw materials, labor, or energy needed to make something become more expensive, producers either raise prices or produce less. This is exactly why global chip shortages during 2021 sent laptop and car prices climbing simultaneously. The silicon needed for both products came from the same squeezed supply chain.
The second factor is technology. When a production process becomes more efficient, businesses can produce more at a lower cost, which increases supply. Solar panel prices have fallen more than 80% over the past decade, specifically because manufacturing technology improved dramatically, flooding the market with cheaper supply. The third factor is the number of sellers in a market. More competitors means more total supply, which is part of why the rise of budget airlines across Europe in the 2000s pushed ticket prices down across the entire industry, not just on the discount carriers. The fourth factor is government policy, taxes, subsidies, and regulation. A tax on cigarettes reduces the profit incentive to produce them, shrinking supply over time, while a subsidy on electric vehicles does the opposite, encouraging manufacturers to flood the market. The fifth factor is expectation, mirroring demand's fifth factor. If oil producers expect prices to rise next quarter, some deliberately hold back supply now, which is a major reason OPEC's production decisions ripple through gas prices worldwide within days. So now you understand both sides, but knowing the two forces separately isn't the full story. The real magic and the real pain in your wallet happens the moment they collide.
Let's go back to eggs. In early 2022, a bird flu outbreak wiped out tens of millions of egg-laying hens across the U.S. Supply collapsed overnight, demand for eggs didn't change, people still wanted their morning omelets, but there simply weren't enough eggs to go around. When supply drops and demand stays the same, price has nowhere to go but up. That's not corporate greed, that's the seesaw tipping. Now flip it. During the pandemic, oil demand crashed because nobody was driving or flying. Producers still had oil pumping out of the ground, storage tanks filling up fast, and for one bizarre week in April 2020, oil prices actually went negative. Producers were paying buyers to take barrels off their hands because they had nowhere left to store it. That's what happens when supply stays high, but demand disappears. The point where what buyers want to pay and what sellers are willing to accept meet is called equilibrium. It's not a fixed number, it moves constantly, every hour, based on the 10 factors we just walked through. Prices aren't random. They're a live scoreboard of millions of individual decisions happening simultaneously all around the world, all the time.
Here's why this isn't just theory. When you hear the housing market is cooling, what's actually happening is demand dropping because interest rates rose, making mortgages more expensive, so fewer buyers can afford to bid on the same houses. When your grocery bill climbs, even though your salary's the same, supply chains somewhere got disrupted or production costs rose, and that got passed straight to the register. When a company announces layoffs, sometimes it's not that the business failed, it's that demand for their product cooled faster than they expected, and supply of workers suddenly outweighed the roles available. Every financial decision you'll ever make, negotiating a salary, timing a home purchase, deciding whether to invest in a stock, even choosing when to book a flight, is secretly a bet on which way demand and supply are about to move. The people who understand this framework aren't smarter than you. They just stopped seeing prices as random numbers and started seeing them as a story with characters, motives, and consequences. Sam eventually ran out of lemonade that hot Saturday. She could have raised her price even higher, made even more money, but she chose not to because she wanted her neighbors to come back next weekend. That's the part economics textbooks rarely mention. Behind every supply curve and demand curve is a human being making a judgment call, weighing profit against trust, scarcity against relationships. The economy isn't a machine. It's millions of small decisions like Sam's happening at scale every single day. Once you see that, prices stop feeling unfair and start feeling like information. If this finally made demand and supply click for you, that's exactly the kind of foundation this channel is built on. Real financial literacy, explained the way it should have been taught the first time. Subscribe, because next episode, we're taking this exact framework and applying it to something that affects every single person watching this. Why your salary negotiation almost always fails, and the one number that changes everything.